In 2015, John Lydon, aka Johnny Rotten of Sex Pistols fame, told Piers Morgan that he knew about Jimmy Savile's antics as far back as 1978, claiming to have tried to raise the alarm during a radio broadcast presented by his friend Janet Street Porter. But the BBC did not broadcast the interview, and as recompense allegedly banned Johnny from the BBC airwaves for several years.
Would you like to make a film?
Yes. In it I'd like to kill a lot of people.
How many people?
Oh, about 200. Well, they'd all be famous names. I'd love to kill Mick Jagger on film, but I bet he'd never do it because his ego would be deflated or something absurd.
Might be good for his public image.
Yeah.
So who else is on the list then? On the goner list?
Oh, it's endless, believe me. It's easier to list the people I don't want to kill.
A serious thing.
All 5 of them.
So how you gonna go about this massacre?
I don't know. I just want to make a film of it. On film, I'd like to kill Jimmy Savile. I think he's a hypocrite. I bet he's into all kinds of seediness that we all know about but are not allowed to talk about. I know some rumours.
Yeah, people always tell you things, don't they?
Ain't I a bitch, eh, don't you think?
On occasion.
I bet none of this will be allowed out.
I shouldn't imagine libelous stuff will be allowed out.
Nothing I said is liable.
God, you see, you're really well trained. I mean...
Did you ever try and do anything about Savile?
I did my bit. I said what I had to.
Did they air that? No. I mean, it's shocking.
Oh, yeah.
He got away with it for another 30-odd years.
Well, not only him, but a whole bunch of them.
That broadcast has since been heard, in which Johnny merely said that he'd heard some things, but we're not allowed to talk about it. Which he didn't, and after his slap on the wrist did not say anything again until the opportunity to self-promote through the Jimmy Savile scandal arose, only after the pariah had died. Rotten Johnny proudly boasted to the very questionable Piers Morgan that he knew. He knew that children were being abused for 33 years at the hands of the pervert DJ, with a claim that he was one who spoke out. Though he could hardly be called a whistleblower when, like all the celebrities that knew about the ongoing abuse at the BBC and in celebrity circles, he pulled his neck in and said nothing, while scores of children were abused, raped, tortured and even murdered to protect the VIP paedophile rings. So goes the price of fame, especially when the cost is paid by someone else.
One of the things which really interested me there was your view about Jimmy Savile and your knowledge at the time that it was going on.
Yeah. Unfortunately, I think all of us, what we call the peoples, knew what was going on with the BBC.
As bad as we now know it was?
Yeah, we knew. We all knew.
You may think I'm being harsh on the former Sex Pistols frontman, and you may say that he was not the only one. And indeed, he wasn't.
I know. And you knew what went on, I guess.
We're talking about Savile.
Did you know?
I was 17 or 18, so it didn't seem that ridiculous. It seemed lots of people
When you first came across Savile, you were 17, 18?
18, yeah, and that thing went on that I told you about, and because we just...
Well, I think you can tell me about it on air. Why not? I mean...
Can't. I don't think I can. I think that's gross. Anyway, something went on, as I said during the show to you. He said, come and see these, they're only 12 years old. And never mind, you kind of ignore it. You're new to things, you've just got into the system. You don't want to know. And he still must have something in the system that's covering him. or covering what's gone on. All know it.
Could that still happen today, or have things changed?
It must be happening today. We can't really imagine it's gone, can we?
And it's already been said in the papers, I'm not taking any great risk from not saying it. Anybody in that era just sort of, we know he's up to something.
Bill Oddie and other celebrities told us that everybody knew about Savile, but like Rotten Leyden, they chose to keep quiet, at least until after the fact, whilst poor innocent children suffered for the safety of their careers. Because to speak out would have meant professional suicide, so they facilitated the crimes with their silence, rather than, at the very least, walking away from the industry rife with child abuse. Some celebrities even presented a tongue-in-cheek amusement at the despicable crimes of the late disgraced disc jockey.
Hi. Hi.
Oh, here it is, the big day. You're going to be a top singer and I'm going to be a top model. Oh, I'm so excited. I haven't been this excited since Jimmy Savile came to our open day at school and sat on my face.
Oh, God!
The main story so far, Jimmy Savile drops dead at the Stoke Mandeville Boxing Day bash, but the patients are far from mourning.
The majority, if not all of them, are extremely relieved that he's now dead. Although I suspect that some of them will be sorry that he didn't suffer a great deal more.
3 life sentences. A spokesman said, "You think you know a guy," and then he goes and does something like that.
What's Victorian sexuality?
Sexuality of the Victorians.
Has it changed?
Has it changed? They're all dead now. So of course it's changed. It's mainly necrophilia.
Carry on. Carry on, that could have been anything.
It could have been anything at all. Could have been a monkey.
Yeah, could have been a monkey.
Yeah. But I went there to...
That's where AIDS came from, you know.
What?
People had sex with monkeys.
Oh, right. I thought you meant Jimmy Savile impressions. For one day. Yeah. I said impressions. Have we got any letters at all?
Yeah, Louise Carpenter from Shrewsbury says, "Dear Frank and David, my 8-year-old daughter loved the Jimmy Savile World Cup comment slot that you did at the beginning of the series. She keeps asking, what has happened to it? Will it be back?"
8-year-old girls love Jimmy Savile, though, don't they? And of course... Anyway, I won't go on.
Yeah. Yeah, he loves her slot. That's what I'm saying.
Okay,
he doesn't!
That's it, the show's
You're right
over.
now.
Honestly, that apparently is what Jimmy Savile and his brother get up to in their spare time. It's amazing, isn't it?
Unbelievable,
It's true, my sister's friend's brother works with someone who once met him, so they...
And I'm just hearing in my ear that some viewers may have lost transmission for about a minute and a half during that, so we'll try and sort that out for next week.
You know, he's been talking about Jimmy Savile for a long time, Bill Maloney, and more and more things over this last week are coming out with regards to Jimmy Savile. What are your thoughts on it?
Well, I've just been writing an article about it for the last 2 days, going out over the weekend, and I've headed it Jimmy Savile, Doorman to the Cesspit. You could say doorway to the cesspit as well, for reasons I'll explain. I was first told that Jimmy Savile was a paedophile in about 1997-98 by a number of people, but including the people who had serious connections into the royal family, not that they were members of the royal family.
Do you still think the royal family were shape-shifting lizards?
Yes, I do.
You do?
Yes.
Was it a great shock for you to discover this at 38?
Well, I think the word is gobsmacked. But again, you know, the best way of removing negativity is to laugh and be joyous. So I'm delighted that there's so much laughter in the audience tonight.
But no, it's a...
But just let me say this.
They're laughing at you. They're not laughing with you.
Fine.
Please.
It's not an open.
I've got some seafront property in Birmingham, Terry. You might like to buy, mate. Honestly. Please.
David,
Please.
David.
And they say I'm crazy and weird.
The late BBC television presenter, Terry Wogan, had said, after the fact, that it was common knowledge in the industry what Savile was up to. And despite presenting Children in Need for 35 years at the BBC, Like Rotten, Wogan, who had been schooled by the Jesuits, didn't feel it necessary to expose Savile himself, and following the disgraced DJ's death, repeated a conversation he had had with Jean Rook, a journalist dubbed the First Lady of Fleet Street, who died in 1991, 20 years before Savile's death.
I was sitting at a table having lunch, and Savile was sitting one up from me, and also up from me was Jean Rook, and Jimmy Savile got up to go to the loo, and she looked across at me and said, "When are they going to expose him?" And I said, "That's your job." And nobody ever did.
One celebrity, however, a stalwart of comedy and magic, Jerry Sadowitz, quite literally spelt it out back in 1987 in saying,
"There's been serious allegations in the news of child abuse in Cleveland. And to my mind there's only one way about finding out whether it's true or not, and that is to call in Jimmy Savile. You can't afford to fuck about. Bring in an expert. Am I right? I mean, a friend of mine reckons that Jimmy Savile is a paedophile. Rubbish. He's a child bender. That's why he does all that fucking charity work. It's to gain public sympathy, or when his case comes up."
And though not a man with a platform as big as Johnny's, according to YouTube comments, the comedian continued to speak out about Savile right up until the pervert DJ's death. And what of Janet Street Porter, CBE, the woman who conducted the interview in which Lydon, as we later learn, told us he knew about Jimmy Savile's antics as far back as 1978? A journalist who, like Louis Theroux, is either utterly incompetent and therefore, though doubtful, unknowingly complicit in the protection of elite paedophile rings, in her ongoing promotion and friendships with a number of suspected child abusers, or at the very least is so consumed by self-interest that she does not speak out to merely protect her lavish lifestyle and bank balance, though the latter would render her, like her good friend Johnny, complicit also, as their silence in the knowledge of a crime, especially one on such a large scale and as despicable as child abuse, means that they have aided and abetted the crime. Lydon, who had told Piers Morgan that his 1978 unbroadcast interview was all that he felt he needed to say before holding his tongue and looking the other way for more than 30 years, said in a 2014 interview,
"But I'm very, very bitter that the likes of Savile and the rest of them were allowed to continue."
But Savile is not the only paedophile with whom Johnny's tongue has fallen silent to protect. Alas, the punk icon has even spoken up to encourage the public's ignorance and adulation of some of those that were very good friends with the disgraced DJ, or others of similar ilk, whom are strongly suspected of being paedophiles themselves. Despite making his name as the voice of anti-establishment, the plastic anarchist Johnny Rotten Lydon, who during a TV interview in 2014 encouraged the British public to maintain their blind faith in the political process and vote for a leader.
You're not voting, you're not contributing, you're not even like non-contributing, you're just demanding that you be ignored. And that's not very smart at all. Vote.
The punk legend told us that he has never been an anarchist and that they were just words in a song. That, of course, would be the Sex Pistols song Anarchy in the UK.
By the way, I never preached anarchy. It was just a novelty in a song. I always thought anarchy was a mind game for the middle classes. Really impractical.
In a 2022 essay he wrote for the Times newspaper, Rotten reiterated his support for the paedophile-riddled establishment by writing that anarchy is a terrible idea. Let's get that clear. I'm not an anarchist. In fact, in stark contrast to the manufactured public image this pioneer of punk's fans may have of him. He is far from an independent voice for the people speaking out against a corrupt and tyrannical authority, but an out-and-out statist who not only supports the political process, but spoke fondly of Queen Elizabeth II, and whilst claiming to be against monarchy, he went on to express that he hoped that she would live and rule for another 20 years. And in the same 2022 essay for the Times newspaper, told us that he offered his support for Queen Elizabeth, explaining how it was the institution and not the person he had issues with.
So I'll tell you a very good fix that I did with a young lady at Buckingham Palace. I was at a reception at Buckingham Palace. That's the place where the Queen lives and Prince
I know, they keep the Queen there, yes.
And it's not an easy gaff to penetrate. Very, very...
What's that? That an easy...
It's not an easy place to get into. That's right.
Yeah.
So I was at this reception, and there was a very nice lady and gentleman said to me, "My daughter would be so pleased to know that I've met you and this, that and the other." And I said, "Oh yes. Where is she?" And they said, "She's in the back of the car." I said, "What, in the boat?" And they said, "No, we've sneaked her in the back of the car so she can say she's been in the palace courtyard." And I said, "And you've got her stuck out there?" I said, "Oh, leave it to me." And they went, no, please don't do it." And they grabbed her and I said, "No." So I went to see a minder and said, "They've got this situation and I'm bringing a friend in." So I said, "Listen, who's going to object to you?" So I said, "All right." Now, the palace staff are the most excellent people, right? On the way out, I explained very briefly what I was doing. Leave it to us. So I went out into the car park, which is a courtyard inside the palace, and I shouted the young lady's name. Next minute, she's holding my arm, and next minute we're marching up the steps right into the palace. Well, the staff had done it right. The two footmen opened the two great doors, and inside there were all the majors and the colonels and the household staff. It's a most elegant situation and tremendously rewarding, right? And of course, when she sees this spectacle of the carpet and the people all standing there, and they all give a little graceful dip as she walked by, and she was now hanging onto me like a lifebelt, understand? Right? And we walked up the steps and into the room where the reception was, in a room called the Bow Room, and fantastic look. Prince Philip, who was a marvellous geezer, happened to be just standing inside the door, parroting to somebody. So I went...
It's a pre-arranged signal, no doubt.
Yeah. Well, no, there's not a lot of people go inside the palace. So he slung the butchers, right, like this. See me, and I do the nod, put a kid away. So he doesn't know where this young lady's appeared from, with a long coat on and bumpy shoes, but he has given a beautiful smile, and she's gone, right? That was a fix-it that I really enjoyed, and I think she might remember it, even if her parents and herself are watching tonight, she might even remember it to this day, and I think a lot longer.
Johnny told us smugly that he knew all about Jimmy Savile, but seemed quite happy to not acknowledge the Queen or her family's friendship with the pervert DJ. And we know that the royal family could not have been in the dark about Savile or any other pervert they associated closely with, as those merely granted the briefest of an audience with a member of the royal family are closely vetted. And even if it were a case of it being the incompetence of British intelligence, who we find hold strong links with the running of paedophile rings and the trafficking of children, at some point during Savile and a good number of others with close ties to a number of figures in the monarchy, including the late Queen and the current King, the knowledge of their perversions would have come to light. Yet at no time was anything done to sever ties, and more importantly, nothing has been done to safeguard the children from high-profile predators and their elite paedophile rings.
Picture this, 4-year-old little girl, she don't play much. She don't smile, she don't laugh, she don't say much. She don't know what it is to be a kid, she don't have any friends but grown men. And what they want, you know what they want, what they paid for. Nobody think about the children till they take yours. And nobody could imagine this could ever happen, to have a kidnapper living next door. The truth could bring tears, 1.2 million children a year, 1.1 COVID deaths worldwide. You won't help save the kids, but you will live in fear. The more that I hear, more disgusted I get, that the world could commit so much horrible So for the children, used, bruised and abused, to you I refuse to forget, I'll be looking. for any other signs. If something isn't right, you can say it with your eyes. Tell me how a mother can sell her own baby and live with it for the rest of her life. Man, it's crazy. We know about the raping, we hear about the torture, and all of the stories of horror, but we just ignore them. They don't want to do it, but somebody... There's 130 people being trafficked every hour worldwide, day or night, rain or shine. 30 million children have lost their childhoods to this horrendous activity. So I don't know about you, but for me, this is unacceptable, and change must happen. Look, there's kids being trafficked and trapped in a world that you don't think exists. The adults that they trusted to teach them and guide them through life, these people are sick. I look at these pictures of innocent children, not all of them taken, but all of them missed. And I just been praying that somebody's coming to save them and make them feel happy and bliss. You do not need a cape or superpowers to be a hero. Let's save our children, let's spread awareness. See me, I'm willing to step up and speak on behalf of the millions of people who fight in this war of child trafficking, the rich and the poor, of all races, selling kids like a store. In y'all's faces, I can't take it no more. Their future depends on us. Right here in this nation, we love and endure. They're hungry and cold, some sleep on the floor. They keep their head down, not allowed to look forward. Some never felt love, they only felt force. What if we could find them all and bring them home and heal them? Could we come together? Could we work together? Could we say together now, save our children?
But then, the same could also be said for the former Sex Pistols frontman's failure to be outspoken about the large number of politicians from all mainstream parties' own involvement with paedophile rings, with whom he encourages the public nonetheless to vote for.
He's got a nice old willy and all.
Oh, Mom.
Fuck Daddy's willy.
Oh, your mom's talking about Diddy's willy. Mom, seriously, you cannot talk about
I bet
like
it's smooth.
Oh!
I bet it's oiled, and
Do you know what? All I have to say is about Sean is it's not my world. I don't understand any of that world. I don't pretend that I do. And I don't know what goes on in that world.
But I don't think this is necessarily a hip-hop related issue. This is a human...
But he lives in a total different world. I don't know what he does.
Sure, but you've also been in a position to see entertainers, famous people taking advantage of young girls. You've seen it.
Yeah.
So to say that you know nothing about it, I think is an
nothing about his
inaccurate
case, Mum should say.
Yeah, I don't. I know.
I bet it's oiled. I bet it's oiled.
Speaking yet again with the highly dubious character Piers Morgan, when asked whether Charles becoming king would be the end of the monarchy, now an American citizen living in LA, Rotten replied,
I've got to tell the world this. You mustn't presume that I'm completely dead against the royal family as human beings. I'm not. I'm actually really, really proud of the Queen for surviving and doing so well. I applaud her for that. That is a fantastic achievement. I'm not a curmudgeon about that. I just think that if I'm paying my tax money to support this system, I should have a say-so on how it's spent.
And do you think, John,
I think it's possibly the end of the monarchy because Prince Charles is not going to be able to handle it.
What?
This is the man that plays Pink Floyd to his cabbages. Remember that?
So you think we might be seeing the beginning of the end of the monarchy as the Queen enters the sort of twilight of her life?
Possibly. Possibly, and that's a shame in itself too, because I do love pageantry. You know, I mean, I'm a football fan. How could I not? You know, I like watching royal weddings because I really did enjoy watching Spitfires and B-52s and the likes flying over the palace. I get quite emotional with all that.
Yeah.
I love me country, I love me people and everything about it. But if there's problems within it, I think I have the right to say so. And
Yet, behind all that pomp and circumstance and jingoistic pageantry that has always been a whitewash of British life, as the real face of Britain is, and has always been for the country's working class, little more than poverty and hardships, whilst the parasites Johnny loves wave at their serfs from solid gold carriages. A monarchy, we find, filled with paedophiles and Nazi sympathisers. Despite constantly reminding us that he is working class, millionaire Johnny says he loves a country he does not want to live in, that prides itself on the serfdom of the masses. Though coming from somewhat humble beginnings, he may favour indentured slavery over common slavery. MK Ultra victim Bryce Taylor, who along with other victims named both Bill and Hillary Clinton back in the 90s, long before the so-called WikiLeaks expose, and of course both politicians were named on their good friend Jeffrey Epstein's flight logs. As was pointed out in episode 11, Bryce also names Prince Charles, now King Charles III, as well as the late Queen Mother in her 1999 book, Thanks for the Memories. However, Rotten Leyden has no interest in acknowledging the close relationships between the establishment he rallies his support for and the elite paedophile rings. Unfortunately, Rotten Johnny's pride and promotion of strongly suspected pedophiles, or at the very least those aligned very closely with serious child abusers, extends to his adopted country of America, where he loudly laid great praise on child traffickers Jeffrey Epstein and Ghislaine Maxwell's good friend, Donald Trump. A man Johnny swells with pride in telling us he voted for in the presidential elections, and calls a possible friend on the Good Morning Britain television programme.
I mean, that very much is the Sex Pistols thing, anti-establishment. He is the absolutely archetypal anti-establishment character in
so
politics.
dare I say, a possible friend.
Well, look, I'm working class English, right? It makes complete sense to me to vote for a person who actually talks about my kind of people. Now, Trump, he's not a politician. He's never claimed to be. How unusually, exceptionally wonderful is that for people like me, working class people, because he's the only hope. Now, you could call him a narcissist, you could call him nasty, he could be many different things, this fella. But he's the only hope because the system, as usual, is a SH system.
Ghislaine Maxwell is in prison, and a lot of people want to know if she's going to turn in powerful people. And I'm wondering, do you feel that she's going to turn in powerful men? How do you see that working out?
I don't know. I haven't really been following it too much. I just wish her well, frankly. I've met her numerous times over the years, especially since I lived in Palm Beach, and I guess they lived in Palm Beach. But I wish her well. whatever it is. I don't know the situation with Prince Andrew. Just don't know. Not aware of it.
Somebody who a lot of people don't give credit to, but in actuality is really beautiful, is Paris Hilton. Paris Hilton. And I've known Paris Hilton from the time she's 12.
She's hot.
Her parents are friends of mine. And, you know, the first time I saw her, she walked into the room and said, who the hell is that?
Said that if Ivanka weren't my daughter, perhaps I'd be dating her. You know?
Stop it! Oh, it's so weird. Stop it. You know what? You are.
Still, Donald Trump repeatedly points out how hot his daughter is, saying last year in a Rolling Stone article, yeah, she's really something, and what a beauty, that one. If I weren't happily married and, you know, her father.
By the way, your daughter.
She's beautiful.
Can I say this? A piece of ass. Yeah. She looks more voluptuous than ever.
She's actually always been very voluptuous.
Of course, Donald Trump is a billionaire and part of the self-appointed elite who directly support, like Britain's Labour and Conservative parties, the creation of a one-world government, against the wishes of the people our leaders claim to represent, through imposing bodies like the World Economic Forum. But none of this troubles the media attention-seeking John Lydon, who in the same Good Morning Britain interview called Trump the only hope. Of course, that was not the case for the honest men and women who sought to build a new life in America, that were made subject to the billionaire's hardline stance on immigration. Yet still, Lydon defended the paedophile-aligned president against the claim that he is a racist. Why have I used Johnny Rotten Lydon as a prime example of celebrities misdirecting the public in their mute support of the Ninth Circle paedophile rings, especially as he is sadly only one of scores of celebrities to be turning a blind eye to the goings-on behind closed doors in celebrity circles, and not using the platform given to them by their fame to shine a light on the prolific crimes of the self-appointed elite and the corrupt establishments they encourage the public to support. Well, for me, Johnny nominated himself when he tried to make an heroic symphony out of his maintained silence for over 30 years, while scores of children had their lives destroyed by Jimmy Savile and others. Because, as he stated, while seeking as always an opportunity to self-promote, that he knew. He knew since as far back as 1978 that children were being abused. He knew, and he said nothing while children suffered. And the argument that fans make for him that he tried to blow the whistle but the BBC banned him. So what? If you're going to blow the whistle, you blow the whistle, or at the very least, you walk away. Though he has now broke away from the big record labels, I'm quite sure he would not have had the successful development of his band, Public Image Limited, with television coverage to enhance his career, had he done the honourable thing and actually spoken up. And he almost certainly would not have been invited to appear on I'm a Celebrity, Get Me Out of Here, or promote butter in an advert which afforded him the opportunity to record a pill album independent of the unscrupulous record companies. And yet, free from the grip and control of the music industry, Johnny still said nothing until after Savile's passing, and only then when the public had already been made aware of the sickening crimes of the pervert DJ. He knew about Savile. What about all the others he surely knows about, and says nothing? In fact, rather than exposing such vile criminals, Rotten Johnny is more likely to praise them.
No, Gary Glitter, you know, do you want to be in my gang? What a pity, right? Because some nights the audience don't grasp it, right? And you think, oh, can't enjoy that because he's a child molester. Well, think before he was, and what he was then, and what he meant to us as kids. That stuff was fucking excellent to hear in a nightclub. And absolutely improved our lives. Yeah. So, you know, the man's got bad in him, but if you want any chance of curing that, you have to know all about him. not just the nasty bits that the Sun newspaper like to bring up.
Of course, if Lydon had actually been a voice for the people and spoken up against Savile, his career would have suffered. He'd have lost money and the fame that helps secure his finances, which in turn provides him with his luxury lifestyle. So the man who married a very wealthy publishing heiress the following year, in 1979, pulled his neck in when the BBC slapped his wrists. Before opening my eyes to the world, I myself was a big fan of Johnny Rotten, the Sex Pistols and Public Image Limited, the band he formed after he left the Pistols. I naively, like so many people, believed that Johnny was some sort of self-appointed voice of the people, a man who was not afraid to speak the truth. But of course, you do not get rewarded for speaking the truth in the mainstream media and show business. Johnny's treatment of his fans, which I saw firsthand on a number of occasions, showed his disregard for the public that love him. And when one takes off the rose-tinted glasses that his fans look at him through, you see a money-hungry narcissist eager for public attention. However, John Lydon is not the only Sex Pistol to fawn over someone with close ties to the Ninth Circle paedophile ring. As former bandmate and guitarist for the manufactured pioneers of pop-punk culture, the Sex Pistols, Steve Jones spoke fondly of the Bible-pumping evangelist Sir Cliff Richards, who said that he would rather 10 guilty men walk free than one innocent man be wrongly charged. What about the 10 times more victims that postulation by the Christian pop star equals? The punk movement, almost certainly a psyop that offers little to no resistance against fascist agendas, like the pandemic and the sinister environmentalist movement, both of which can be traced back to the Rockefellers, a family that were major financial supporters of both the Soviet Union and the Third Reich, who joined with I.G. Farben, the financial backbone of Hitler's regime, and commissioned Auschwitz, and played a leading role in the Holocaust. Not that the foundations of the punk movement showed any compassion for the millions of victims of the Holocaust, in which we know that scores of children were abused and horrifically tortured, as punk icons like heroin-cursed Sid Vicious famously sported a swastika t-shirt. And what of Steve Jones's former love dalliance, Chrissie Hynde's first acknowledged contribution to the world of punk? A group called the Moors Murderers, a band named with total disregard for the heavily grieving parents and families after Myra Hindley and Ian Brady and the brutal tortures and sacrifices they carried out on Saddleworth Moors. Again, the foundations of the punk movement, we find, is more based on one's interests and indulgences, whilst promoting an anti-establishment stance on one hand. The bands that claim to be anarchists often support the corrupt paedophile-riddled political agenda. Punk should be reclaimed at a grassroots level, if it ever really truly belonged to the people, rather than a psyop that cleverly exploited the frustrated and disenfranchised youth of the day, directing their followers to political action rather than revolution by greater awareness of the self and the importance of bringing people from all walks of life together in educated unity to build communities and societies free of the dictate of the corrupt corporate government. Instead, they were led to ignorantly believe that positive change would come through a change of government, and more so in the 80s it would almost certainly come once that Thatcher and the Tories were voted out of office. Unaware that the Fabian created Labour Party made it clear in 1964 that they were committed to the Rockefeller established United Nations, with the party's main objective being the establishment of a one world government. The punks therefore naively believed that a cross in a box at election times was the actions of an anarchist, or failing that, rioting. Just as much as today's punks did not acknowledge the hypocrisy they showed when many of them followed the dictate of their Tory government by wearing face masks and attacking the anarchists who refused to. Even going as far as taking part in the forewarned pandemic genocide. If that is punk, then it holds no merit. But if in the heart of a punk beats a true anarchist seeking the undiluted truth and freedom from corporate tyranny, and then exposing it to all, to defy their divide and rule agenda in the interest of bringing people together in educated unity, then in the hearts of such individuals it could be most certainly said that a new breed of punk has emerged, and with it, finally, and more importantly, the beating heart of a true anarchist.